When I planned my trip for the weekend, I was excited as usual. I packed my gear, double-checked everything, and headed to the woods. It was one of my favorite spots, deep enough in the forest that you don't hear the highways or see other people, just me, nature, and whatever game I could find. I got there early in the evening, just in time to set up camp before the sun dipped below the horizon. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small tent and a campfire. I cooked some food, relaxed by the fire, and went to bed early, ready for the morning hunt. Now, I don't know if you've ever woken up to a fog so thick you can barely see a few feet ahead, but let me tell you, it's unsettling. That's exactly what I woke up to the next morning. The tent was damp with condensation, and when I stepped outside, it was like walking into a cloud. Everything was gray. I could barely make out the trees around my campsite, and the air was so still it felt like the world had stopped moving. I shrugged it off at first. Fog happens, right? I figured it would burn off once the sun came up, so I grabbed my rifle and gear, ready to head out. Except the fog didn't lift. It just sat there, heavy and suffocating, like it had no intention of going anywhere. Walking through it was strange. I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead, and every sound felt louder than usual. The crunch of leaves under my boots, the occasional snap of a twig. It all echoed like I was in a giant empty room. Even the birds seemed quieter than normal, like they were hiding. I kept going, though. I wasn't going to let a little fog ruin my day. I figured the deer were still out there somewhere, and if I moved slowly and kept my ears open, I'd find them. But the longer I walked, the more uneasy I felt. You know that feeling when you're being watched? Like there's someone or something just out of sight, keeping an eye on you. That's how I felt. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see, well, I don't know what I expected to see, but there was nothing. Just fog. I told myself to stop being ridiculous. It's just fog, I thought, nothing spooky about it. So I kept going, scanning the ground for tracks or any sign of movement. But then, out of nowhere, I heard it. "Are you lost too?" It was a whisper, soft and close, like someone was standing right behind me. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I turned around slowly, rifle in hand, but there was no one there, just more fog. I tried to tell myself it was the wind, even though there wasn't a breeze to be felt. Maybe it was my imagination. I'd been walking for a while, and the fog was playing tricks on me. Yeah, that had to be it. But then I heard it again. "Are you lost too?" This time it was louder, and it definitely wasn't my imagination. The voice was coming from somewhere in front of me, deeper into the woods. Now any normal person would have turned around and gone back to camp. But me? I'm not the brightest when it comes to these things. Curiosity got the better of me, so I started walking toward the voice. I kept calling out, "Hello, who's there?" But there was no answer, just that thick, choking fog. The ground started to slope downward, and I realized I'd wandered into a part of the forest I didn't recognize. That's when I noticed something strange. The trees were different. The ones around my campsite were tall and sturdy, with leaves that rustled in the wind. But these trees, they were twisted, like something out of a nightmare. Their branches reached out like claws, and the bark was dark, almost black. The voice came again, closer this time. "Are you lost too?" I stopped dead in my tracks. My instincts were screaming at me to turn around and leave, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like I was rooted to the spot, staring into the fog. Then I saw it. At first it looked like a shadow, shifting and moving between the trees. I could barely see the figure through the thick fog, but I could see that it was tall, too tall to be a person, and it moved in a way that didn't make sense, like it was gliding instead of walking. I raised my rifle, but my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it steady. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The shadow didn't answer. It just kept moving, getting closer and closer until I could make out its shape. It wasn't human. Its body was long and thin, almost skeletal, and its eyes, oh God, its eyes were glowing. Not like a flashlight or anything like that, but this eerie, sickly yellow light that cut through the fog like a knife. I don't know what came over me, but I fired. The sound of the shot echoed through the woods, and for a moment everything went silent. The shadow was gone. I stood there, shaking and trying to catch my breath. I told myself it was just a trick of the fog, maybe an animal or something. But then I heard it again, right behind me this time. Are you lost too? I whipped around, but there was nothing there, just fog and those twisted trees. I started running. I didn't care where I was going as long as it was away from that voice. The fog seemed to thicken as I ran, and the ground beneath me turned soft and uneven, like I was running through mud. My boots kept getting stuck, and I could hear that voice always just behind me. Are you lost too? It was getting louder, like whoever or whatever was speaking was right on my heels. I tripped over something and went sprawling, my rifle flying out of my hands. When I looked up, I saw it again. The shadow was standing over me, its glowing eyes boring into mine. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It leaned down, and it repeated the phrase, "Are you lost too?" I don't know what happened after that. The next thing I remember, I was back at my campsite, lying on the ground with the sun shining down on me. The fog was gone and everything looked normal. But here's the thing, I have no idea how I got back to camp. One second I was staring at that thing, and the next I was just there. Maybe I fainted. Maybe something carried me back. I don't know, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to know. I packed up and left as fast as I could, not even bothering to eat breakfast. When I got home, I didn't feel like myself. I mean, I was glad to be out of those woods and back in my own bed, but something about the whole thing stuck with me. The voice, the shadow, the way I somehow ended up back at my campsite, it all felt like a bad dream, except it wasn't. The next day, I tried to shake it off. My family had planned a dinner that night, so I figured being around them might help. It was one of those casual things. Burgers on the grill, some beers, and everyone catching up. I showed up, a little tired, but trying not to let it show. Everything was normal at first. My mom asked how the hunting trip went, and I just told her it was weird. That was all I said. No way was I going to explain the fog or the voice. Anyway, at some point during dinner, I spilled my beer. I don't even remember how. It was one of those moments where it just tipped over, and the next thing I knew, it was all down the front of my shirt. Everyone laughed, and I rolled my eyes, saying something like, "Guess it's time for a wardrobe change." I went to the bathroom to grab a towel and took off my shirt to dry off. That's when I heard my sister gasp. "Oh my God, what happened to your back?" she said, her voice sharp and a little panicked. I turned around, confused. "What do you mean?" She pointed, her eyes wide. That mark. How did you even get that?" I twisted to look in the mirror, and my stomach dropped. There, stretching across my shoulder blade, was a huge red mark. It wasn't just a bruise or a scrape, it looked like a scar, long, jagged, and angry, like someone had dragged a burning hot knife across my skin. I don't know," I stammered. "I didn't even know it was there." By then, everyone had crowded into the hallway, peeking in to see what the commotion was about. My mom looked horrified, and my dad just shook his head, muttering something about me being reckless in the woods. "What happened out there?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. That's when it all came spilling out. The fog, the voice, the shadow. I told them everything. Every detail. By the time I finished, the room was dead silent. My mom crossed herself, which she only does when she's really scared, and my dad just said, "You're never going back there, do you hear me?" "I wasn't planning to," I said, trying to lighten the mood, but nobody laughed. Even my brother, who usually loves to tease me, just looked serious. "That mark, it's like something wanted to make sure you remembered," he said quietly. "I told them not to go near that place, ever. I made them promise, and they did. My mom even made me swear I wouldn't go back either, and I didn't argue. The next few days were weird. That mark on my back didn't hurt, but it was always there, like a constant reminder. Every time I looked in the mirror, it gave me chills. I started sleeping with the lights on, just in case. After about a week, the mark started to fade, slowly at first, like it was being erased bit by bit. By the time a few more weeks had passed, it was completely gone, as if it had never been there at all. But even now, I still feel it sometimes, like a phantom itch right where the scar used to be. I don't know what it means, or why it eventually disappeared. All I know is I'm not going near those woods again, and if you're smart, you won't either. Story 2. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but maybe you'll understand. It's been on my mind for a while, and no matter what, I can't shake it. This was, I don't know, a year or two ago. I went hunting, like I always do. So, yeah, it started like any other trip. I'd packed my stuff, loaded up my rifle, and hit the road just before dawn. It was one of those cool, foggy mornings, the kind that makes everything feel a little more mysterious. But I like that. Makes you feel like you're really out there, you know? Anyway, I drove for a while and eventually parked the truck near the spot I've been going to for years. It's kind of remote, but that's what I like about it. Nobody around to bother you. I got out, stretched a bit, and started hiking up the trail. It was quiet, too quiet, like the kind of silence that makes you start hearing things that aren't there. But I didn't think much of it at the time. I just figured the animals were laying low. They probably heard me coming from a mile away. After a bit, I found a good spot. There's this clearing near a small stream where I usually set up, and it was perfect. The sun was starting to rise, casting that orange glow through the trees, and everything seemed normal. I set up, took a seat, and waited. Hours passed. It's funny how time works out there. You sit for what feels like forever, waiting for something to happen, but nothing ever does. I was just staring at the trees, the stream, the sky. Everything felt still, almost too still. But I just figured, hey, it's nature, right? Sometimes it's like that. And then I heard it. At first it was faint, like a distant bird call. Didn't think anything of it really, but then it happened again. This time it was clearer, sharper, and it sounded weird. Like it wasn't just a regular bird call. It sounded like, well, I don't know how to explain it, but it sounded like my name. Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? But I swear, it was like this bird was calling my name. I just sat there thinking I was losing it or something. Maybe I'd been sitting there too long, and my mind was playing tricks on me. But then it happened again. Jason, clear as day, like someone was out there messing with me. It was coming from the trees, but I couldn't see anything. I just kind of sat there staring at the spot where the sound came from. I stood up thinking maybe it was someone playing a joke or something. I mean, what else could it be? I called out, "Who's there?" But there was nothing. Just silence again. No answer, no movement, nothing. I tried to shake it off, but you know that feeling when something just isn't right? Like there's something out there watching you? Yeah, that's what I started feeling. I looked around, tried to stay calm, but every time I did, I kept hearing it. Jason. Over and over again, like it was getting closer, but still, like it was echoing. It sounded off, though, like a voice mimicking a bird, or a bird mimicking a voice. I couldn't tell anymore. I grabbed my rifle, figuring, just in case I wasn't about to get caught off guard by whatever was out there. But man, I didn't feel like I was alone anymore. It's weird. I've been out in the woods 1,000 times, but this was different. There was something about it that felt off, like I shouldn't be there. I started walking, just trying to get out of there. But no matter how far I went, the sound followed me. Jason. It was softer now, almost like it was toying with me, teasing me, like it knew I was scared. And I'll tell you, I was. I don't know what it was, but something about that voice, that call, it made me feel like I was being hunted. I must have walked for miles, but the whole time, it felt like I was going in circles. The trees started looking the same, and I kept having the feeling that I was being followed. Every so often, I'd turn around, thinking I'd see someone or something, but there was never anything there, just trees. Endless trees. The sun started going down, and the sky turned this weird, deep purple color. I figured I'd been out there long enough and needed to head back, but the trail was gone. I don't know how, but it was just gone, like it had never been there in the first place. That's when I heard it again, closer this time. Jason. It was louder now, almost like it was right behind me. I turned, but of course nothing was there, just shadows and the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. But something was out there. I could feel it. Then I saw it. In the trees just ahead of me, there was this shape. It was dark, like a shadow, but it had this, I don't know, glow to it, like it wasn't solid, but it was there, watching me. And then it moved. Slowly at first, like it was drifting through the trees, but it was coming toward me. I froze. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I couldn't move. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't work, and the whole time it kept calling my name. Jason. It was soft now, almost a whisper, but I could hear it clear as day. It was like it was inside my head, making me hear things that weren't there. I don't know how long I stood there, just staring at it. It felt like hours, but it could have been seconds. Time didn't seem to work right anymore, but eventually I managed to move. I don't know how, but I turned and ran. I didn't care where I was going. I just needed to get away from that thing. I ran for what felt like forever, crashing through the trees, tripping over roots, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The whole time I could hear it behind me, that voice, that call, still saying my name. Jason. It was mocking me, taunting me like it knew I couldn't get away. Finally, I burst out into a clearing. It was the same one I'd started in, but it didn't feel like it. The trees seemed taller, darker, like they were closing in on me, and there, in the middle of the clearing, was the shape, just standing there, waiting for me. I backed away, but I could feel it. The air around me was heavy, like I was being pulled toward it. It was like gravity had shifted, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape. The shape started moving again, coming closer, and I felt this coldness wash over me. It wasn't just the cold from the night air, though. It was deeper, like it was coming from inside me, freezing me from the inside out. And then it spoke again, but this time, it wasn't calling my name. No, it was saying something else, something I couldn't understand. It wasn't a language I'd ever heard before, but it felt old, ancient, like it came from a time before words. I tried to shoot it, but for some reason I couldn't even raise my rifle. I don't even know why, but it felt useless. Whatever this thing was, it wasn't something I could fight. I just stood there frozen as it came closer, the words getting louder, filling my head until I thought I was going to go crazy, and then nothing. It was just gone. The voice stopped, the shape disappeared, and everything went quiet again. I was alone, standing in that clearing, with nothing but the sound of my own breathing. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I turned and made my way back to the truck. The trail was there again, like nothing had ever happened. I couldn't believe it. My mind was racing, but all I could think was getting the hell out of there. I reached the truck and just stood there for a second, catching my breath. That's when I felt it again, that heavy feeling like something was still watching me. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was all in my head, but I could feel it. I could feel eyes on me. I don't know what made me do it, but I looked up, and that's when I saw it. Sitting on top of the tree, right above me, was a figure, just sitting there, like it had been waiting for me the whole time. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just sat there, crouched on a branch, staring down at me with those same dark, hollow eyes I had seen in the clearing. The thing wasn't human, no way. Its limbs were too long, its body too twisted, but it was looking at me, just watching. I froze. My hand was on the door handle, but I couldn't move. I wanted to jump in the truck, peel out of there, but I just stood there like an idiot, staring back at it. I couldn't see its face, not really, but I knew it was watching me. I could feel it. And the worst part, it didn't feel like it was scared of me. No, it was calm, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. Then I heard it again. Jason. It came from the figure, that same voice, that same call, soft and mocking. My legs finally started working again, and I yanked the truck door open. I scrambled inside, slammed the door shut, and locked it. I didn't waste another second. I slammed the truck into drive and peeled out of there. My heart was racing, and I could feel the sweat dripping down the back of my neck. I kept my eyes on the road, just trying to put as much distance between me and whatever that thing was. But no matter how fast I drove, that feeling didn't go away. It was like something was clinging to the air around me, heavy and suffocating. My headlights cut through the trees as I sped down the narrow trail, trying not to think about what I'd seen, what I'd heard. I just wanted to get back to town, to civilization, where none of this stuff could touch me. Then, just as I was about to convince myself I was in the clear, I saw it again. Out of the corner of my eye, as I passed by one of the trees along the road, I saw it. That same figure perched up high in the branches like it had never left, just sitting there, its limbs twisted and long, like it didn't belong to this world. I almost swerved off the road when I caught sight of it. My stomach dropped, and I could feel my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I forced myself to look forward again, but the image was burned into my brain. It was still watching me. I knew it. Even though I was driving away, I felt like it was following me, showing up wherever I went. My foot pressed harder on the gas. Every tree I passed, I half expected to see it again, sitting there, waiting, like it knew something I didn't. It didn't need to chase me. It was always ahead of me, watching, waiting, and that voice, it was still there, echoing in my head. Jason. I kept driving, pushing the truck faster than I probably should have on that rough trail. My hands were gripping the wheel so tight, my knuckles were white, and my heart was pounding in my chest. After what felt like forever, the road started to smooth out. The trees thinned, and for a moment, I started to believe I might actually make it out of there. The air felt lighter, and the creepy feeling that had been sitting in my gut started to ease up. Maybe it was all in my head. Maybe I just imagined it. I mean, I hadn't slept much, and my mind could have been playing tricks on me, right? I tried to convince myself that I was just overreacting, that none of it was real. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and quiet. No sign of that thing, no weird shadows in the trees. Just me and the road. After a while, I started to calm down. My breathing slowed, and the sweat on my face began to dry up. For a second, I even thought about turning on the radio to drown out the silence. But then, just as I was starting to think it was over, I heard it. Thud. A loud, bone-rattling crash hit the roof of my truck like something heavy had dropped on top of it. My whole truck shook under the impact, and I nearly slammed the brakes right there in the middle of the road. My heart shot into my throat, and my mind went blank. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't help it. My hands were shaking as I glanced up at the rear view mirror, half expecting to see something, or worse, someone sitting on top of the truck, peering through the back window. But there was nothing. The road behind me was empty, just like before. No figure, no weird shadows, nothing, just darkness stretching out behind me. But I knew I wasn't imagining it. I heard it. I felt it. I gripped the wheel tighter and pushed the gas even harder, trying to shake the thought that something had been on top of my truck. My mind raced through every possibility. Maybe a branch, maybe an animal, maybe that thing. I kept my eyes on the road, my whole body tensed up, just waiting for something else to happen. Every little noise, every bump in the road made me jump. I don't even remember how I got home. It's all kind of a blur. I just kept my foot on the gas and didn't look back. My mind was racing, replaying everything that had happened, trying to make sense of it. But it didn't make sense. None of it did. By the time I finally pulled into my driveway, I was exhausted. My whole body felt heavy, like I'd just run a marathon, but my heart was still pounding like crazy. I turned off the engine and sat there for a minute, just trying to catch my breath, trying to convince myself I was safe now. But that feeling, that dread, it hadn't left me. I kept thinking about that thud on the roof. I knew I'd have to check it. Maybe it was a branch or something. Maybe I hit something on the road and didn't notice. But the thought of it being something else, something from that forest, it made my skin crawl. I finally got out of the truck, and the cool night air hit my face. For a second, I thought about just going inside and forgetting the whole thing. Maybe if I didn't look, I could pretend none of it happened. But curiosity got the better of me. I walked around to the side of the truck and took a deep breath before stepping back to get a look at the roof. And there it was, a huge dent right in the middle. It was like something heavy had slammed down on it, hard. The metal was caved in, and there were deep scratches around the impact, like something had clawed at it. My heart dropped into my stomach. This wasn't just a branch, it wasn't an animal. Something had been on top of my truck. I stood there staring at the dent for what felt like forever, my mind racing. I didn't sleep much that night, and after that, well, I decided maybe I'd take a break from hunting for a while, a long while. Maybe it was time to pick up a new hobby, something that didn't involve going deep into the woods where I might run into whatever that thing was. I haven't been back to those woods since. And honestly, I'm not sure I ever will. Some things, once you've seen them, you can't unsee. And that feeling, the one that's been stuck with me since that night, yeah, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.